jungle and we are being hunted.
My Anaconda.
Now we die.
My Anaconda.
It's okay, you're safe, I'm here.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2025 horror comedy remake, Anaconda. The film is co-written and directed by Tom Gormican, and it stars Paul Rudd, Jack Black, Steve Zahn and Tandy Newton. Now the film focuses on Paul Rudd and Jack Black's character, Ronald and Doug, as well as Steve Zahn and Tandy Newton's character, Kenny and Claire. They are childhood friends. They always thought they would kind of grow up and end up kind of making movies together, especially Paul Rudd and Jack Black's character. Paul Rudd has gone off to Hollywood to try and make it big. He's only managed to do a couple of episodes of SWAT. But he returns home to celebrate Jack Black's character's birthday, and he proposes to the whole team that he has the rights to Anaconda. And he proposes that they go to South America with a budget and film the remake or stroke reboot of the film. They all agree, they all head out there. As you can imagine, this all goes terribly wrong. Right, what are my thoughts on Anaconda? Well, I've been quite looking forward to this. When I saw the trailer of this one months ago, I thought it looked really fun and clever. And it was weird as well, because I just watched... I can't remember if I just watched and reviewed the original Anaconda, or I watched and reviewed it as a result of the trailer. I can't remember which. But I thought it's a really clever idea, and to get Paul Rudd and Jack Black on board, this could be, golden, really. Now, it came out on Christmas Day, I believe. I didn't go and see it then. I have been to see it since. And honestly, this film is, very fun and a lot of fun. And it's a good watch. Is it the laugh-a-minute work of genius that I was hoping it was going to be? No. But it's perfectly serviceable. And it definitely raises more than a chuckle here and there. It does a good job on that front. I think the characters are likable. They've all got their distinct personalities. There's nobody to dislike here, thankfully. The comedy is at times light, but it never really becomes slapstick, if you like. At some level, it takes itself seriously, in a sense of they really have gone to South America to film this remake of Anaconda. They've got not much in the way of a budget, but they've got the film equipment and everything. Jack Black basically always wanted to be a director, so he basically makes wedding videos, but he's always wanted to do this. So they get out there, they start filming scenes, all this kind of stuff, and it's their dream. They're living the dream, and then they're set upon by a real giant anaconda, which is the fun part of the movie. It's a movie within a movie. Their movie now is them fighting for their lives. There's even some really fantastic cameos here that I'm not going to spoil, that I thought worked really well for the film. They don't overdo it, but it's kind of a bit of fan service, if you like, to the original. And the original is, it's a guilty pleasure film for many. It is in no way regarded as a classic, but like I say, it is definitely, I think, a fun guilty pleasure. And this is not the remake of the first. It's a retelling or a reworking of the idea of the first one. Think Tropic Thunder in a lot of ways. I mean, it's not as good as Tropic Thunder, this. But Tropic Thunder essentially was a movie within a movie, and they get themselves in a serious situation. They've got to figure out how to get out of it. Shit gets real in that film. Well, shit gets real in this film as well. And they've got to basically, work together and figure out how they're going to survive this giant anaconda chasing them. If you've seen the trailer, you've seen some of the exploits and escapades that they get up to. There's some fun moments. The scene, and I'm not spoiling anything here because it's in the trailer. Jack Black, they think he's dead at one point in the film, and then they kind of dress him up with these other creatures as bait for the snake. But he's not dead. I mean, that's quite amusing, that bit when he's running away from the snake with these things strapped to him, these other animals and creatures. There are some gags that don't work. Some of the gags fall flat. There's a scene where, somebody needs peeing on because they've been stung by a spider, I think it is. And that fell flat for me, that whole sequence that goes on with that. So they're not all winners here. They throw a lot of stuff at the wall. Some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. But what kind of works is the charm and charisma of the cast, really. And Paul Rudd and Jack Black have got their name above the poster. But make no mistake, Steve Zahn, who was, very, very funny, in most things that he does, it feels like he's been restrained a little bit in this film, but he's still wacky and zany and quite a lot of fun most of the time here. And Tandy Newton as well, who you wouldn't think, much in the way of comedy chops. She works well here as well. She works well with the rest of the guys. She's got plenty to do. They've all got plenty to do. It doesn't necessarily just feel like a Jack Black, Paul Rudd movie. They're a team here, and they all kind of work well together, and they all bounce off each other, and they've all got pretty good chemistry as well, which works. I suspect they probably had an absolute blast filming this. It looks like it was probably a lot of fun to make. So it was about what I hoped it would be, this film. Part of me was hoping it was going to be like, some real comedy genius going on here, because the idea is so clever to remake Anaconda within a movie sort of thing. It's such a clever idea, and with, like I say, the Paul Rudd of the world and Jack Black and Steve Zahn and stuff, there's a lot of ingredients stirring into the pot here. I think they just missed a few bits here and there to kind of make it completely memorable. It's one of those films where you walk out and you remember you think to yourself, yeah, I had a good time with that. That's actually quite a fun movie. But then on the drive home, you're trying to remember some of the really funny bits, and there's not a huge amount that kind of sticks in there. But yeah, I can't really complain. If you come out of the cinema and your first reaction is, yeah, that was a good time, I enjoyed it, surely they've done the job, I think. I hope it does well, this. I hope it makes a decent amount of money. I've seen some mixed reviews for this. I've seen some reviews calling it abysmal. But I've also seen some reviews calling it, a lot of fun, kind of stuff like what I'm saying. It is definitely not an abysmal film. It is definitely a lot of fun, and I enjoyed my time with it. So that's my thoughts on Anaconda. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen the film, and I will, of course, be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.